Hi everyone. So it's nice to finally be in Greece. I was actually supposed to be here already half a year ago, but that got delayed because of some heat waves from the summer. But it's nice to finally be here, and now actually I'm planning on staying here quite a bit. I'm going to talk more about my plans a little bit later. First, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Siobhan. I'm from the north of Norway, and I've been vegan for about a little bit more than 4 years. And I went vegan when I moved in the Netherlands, and it was quite easy to go vegan, of course, because I didn't have social pressure. I moved to a new country, so all these things came quite natural to me. The problem with going vegan was I saw all these things, all these images, all this crazy stuff, and I thought, I'm going to show my friends and family, and all of them are going to go vegan right that. But that didn't happen. So I realized how in deep shit we actually really were. And I started to look into how I could speak up for the animals, how I could make a difference for them. And I tried to do some street outreach in the Netherlands, but I didn't speak the language very well. I felt a bit uncomfortable and very insecure, of course. I didn't know all the facts, I didn't know everything. So I didn't do much activism the first 2 years. Then I saw a speech done by Ed, for those of you who know him, during the Animal Rights March in 2016 in London. And I saw the whole march, and I saw so many people, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Maybe I should go to the UK. So I decided to move to London. So in January 2017, I went to London for 4 months to do full-time activism and learn more about activism. And there I met Ed and his team, and I did a lot of activism with him. He taught me everything I needed to learn, and he organized several events which I participated in. And at one point, we were outside a slaughterhouse together, and we were talking about traveling around doing activism. And I had the idea of going around in a van to promote different forms of activism, talk about what's happening. And yeah, that was the plan I had. And he also really liked that plan. And Ed and his team Search, they managed to get a van on the road already in September 2017 when they did the Land of Hope and Glory tour. If you heard about that, they went around schools in the UK, gave speeches, and created a huge movement there. Me, on the other hand, I had the idea of traveling in a van. I didn't have a van, I didn't have a driver's license, and I didn't have any money. But I had the idea. So I was playing around with this idea, and I talked with my dad about it, and my dad said, you know what, I'm going to buy a new van, so you can take my old van. I'm like, alright, I'm one step closer. Still don't have a driver's license and money, so the easiest part was basically done. And now the hard part came. I needed to get a driver's license and save some money. And at this point, I moved back to the Netherlands. And I worked as a bartender, so I didn't have the big opportunity to save up a lot of money for going on tour. But I kept on doing activism now in the Netherlands with all the experience I had. I started to do more activism there, and I felt more confident. And I went outside a slaughterhouse in the Netherlands for a vigil, and there I met Ruth, who had the same idea as me to travel around and do activism and spread activism further. And she had a driver's license. So we were one step closer, but we still didn't have any money. And I guess that is the most difficult part when it comes to what we are doing, because there's not much money to get in the animal rights movement. But we went to the Animal Rights Conference in Luxembourg. This was September 2017, and I went there with the goal of talking to people about fundraising. How can I fundraise? And of course, I also wanted to get more inspiration, and I was thinking about learning how to give a workshop, because I never talked in front of people before. And during that conference, the second day, they asked, I actually managed to have my first workshop. That was quite random because someone dropped out and they asked if someone wanted the slot, and someone poked me and said, just go for it. And I did. And then that was kind of out of my system. I did that workshop and I talked with people. I shared my idea with everyone I talked to see how I could manage to get some funds. And then I met someone from the Save movement, and she said that she really liked the idea and she was going to look into what she could do. Then 1 month later, I got a message on Facebook from her saying that the Save movement had looked at your idea and we had decided to fund your whole project.
Wow.
So, nice. So then it was just to start planning. This was in October 2017, and then I quit my job in that second, and then I started planning. And for 2-3 months, we were fully planning, and it was a huge plan. We decided to travel to 25 countries in Europe and visit about 40 cities, giving workshops, organizing cubes, direct action everywhere, and of course rituals with the Save movement. So then Activism on the Road was born, which is the organization I created. And we traveled around Europe and we had a great success. We created several Save groups, several cubes started up, and we saw a movement starting to grow in lots of countries. And some countries really, really exploded. For example, Slovenia had not much activism happening while we came there, and today they have, I think, 7 or 8 rituals, they have 3 or 4 cubes, and they're doing direct action everywhere, and they have a really strong community. So now when I'm looking back and seeing the results, I have continued traveling. So I have now been on tour for more than a year, and now it's a bit different what we're doing. Me and my partner, we split up, we went different directions. And I am still doing activism on the road, but now I'm doing training tours. So what I'm doing now is that I'm bringing people with me on tour. So we're traveling to different places. Like now recently, I've been on having training tours in Norway, Slovenia, and Belgium, where in all countries I brought people with me, where I trained them to give workshops, trained them to organize events. So that now, if someone in Norway, Slovenia, or Belgium wants to do more activism, they can contact Activism on the Road and we will send people out there. And the goal is to have people all around the world to do this. And now we actually just sent one group over to India as well. So we have Activism on the Road in Asia. So yeah, that's a bit of what we are doing, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in the end about what my plans are here in Greece, because I'm planning on staying. I will go a bit back and forth because I have some other projects. But ideally I will stay here until May. So I'm sure we can get a lot of things going when it comes to the Save movement, and hopefully some direct action everywhere and cubes as well. So now I'm just going to talk for a little bit about the Save movement. How many of you have ever heard about the Save movement before? Can I just see your hands? Alright. And how many of you have been to a ritual?
We don't have rituals.
You don't have ritual. Anyone been outside Greece? Alright.
No, we have an activist, I think you know him, you met him in Berlin, Sotiris, that he has been in a vigil in Berlin.
Alright, okay, yeah. So, the Save movement. The Save movement started in 2010 when Anita were walking her dog, Mr. Bean. They were having a walk in their neighborhood, and Mr. Bean smelled or heard something. He was very curious about what was happening a little bit further up the road. And Anita, of course, saw a big truck as well, and they decided to go up to the truck. And that's when they saw a truck filled with pigs. And Anita spent a little time with them, she connected a bit with them, and she saw them for who they were. She was already vegan for quite a few years before this. And when she saw these animals, she understood how urgent this problem is, and she understood how bad what we're doing to them really is. So when the truck pulled off, she of course knew that there was no way back for these animals. Now it's the end of their journey. But she promised them in that moment that she was going to do everything she could for them to change this for them. So that's when she founded the first Save group, which was Toronto Pig Save. It's very important to say that Mr. Bean, the dog, he was the main founder of this. I need to really appreciate this dog. And I actually want to try to show you a picture of him. I don't know if you can see it, but he was a rescue, and
yes, he seems pleasure.
Yeah, but he's now passed away, so she really liked to have him as a part of the same movement. So they started in 2011. They started to do vigil 3 times a week outside this slaughterhouse. They kept coming back, sometimes more often. By 2012, the slaughterhouse went bankrupt. Of course, this is not only because of the vegans, there's probably some other reasons. But we can just imagine, if you're a farmer or a truck driver, if you have the choice to go to a slaughterhouse where you have the risk of being exposed, someone will film the conditions that your animals are in. Will you go there, or would you go to another slaughterhouse? Most truck drivers would seek out another slaughterhouse. So we definitely had a big part in why this slaughterhouse went bankrupt. So what happened then was that they moved to the other slaughterhouses, and they started to fill up all the slaughterhouses in Toronto. And by 2015, they had about 30 same groups spread around Canada and some in the US. At this point, Anita was giving water to a pig, and a truck driver got furious. He came out screaming to her, and he was so angry, and he decided to sue her. He sued her, and she could face up to 12 years in prison for giving water to thirsty pigs. Okay, this went massive. The mass media picked up on it, and vegans from all around the world started to see this, and vegans started to go outside slaughterhouses to stand in solidarity with Anita. And in 2017, the case was closed, we won, and she didn't have to go to prison, so of course that's a very beautiful thing. But this was the best thing that could ever happen to the Save movement, because after this, we had 300 groups around the world. So this was the explosion we really needed. And in 2018, we doubled it. And today we are, I think, 616 groups around the world. So we are really growing really fast. And Anita's goal is to have a vigil outside every single slaughterhouse in this world. And that's what we are working very hard to get. And we will get there at one point. It's just a matter of time. So, when the suffering of another creature causes you to feel pain, do not submit to the initial desire to flee from the suffering one, but on the contrary, come closer as you can to they who suffer, and try to help them. That's the ideology we live behind. In the way, if you see a child or a dog with a broken leg, most of us would like to help them, especially as vegans. Of course, there's a lot of carnies out there who wouldn't blink an eye. But if we in our heart feel that we want to help those who suffer, it's our duty to actually go there and be there for these animals. So what are we actually doing outside these slaughterhouses? When we think about going to a slaughterhouse, it's quite tense feelings inside of us already just being there. Like, what are we going to do there? I'm sorry because I wanted to show some videos, but I won't do that today. We'll just talk because we don't have a presentation. So I'll try to explain as good as I can with words. Hopefully you have seen some videos or something from it. But
we all have seen videos, so don't worry.
All right. So
also you can hear that most of us, I think, I don't know everyone, we're activists, so we're familiar with videos, etc.
Yeah. So maybe it's better for your heart.
Yes.
But yeah, we go to slaughterhouses to bear witness to the suffering. We go there to stop the trucks, to get as close as we absolutely can to the animals who suffer. And we do this in a legal way. This is often the only legal way that we are able to ever see these animals. Because if we're going to break into farms, we have to break the law. And if we're going to go into the slaughterhouses, we also have to break the law. While on the outside, we don't need to break any laws because we are trying to stay on the public road. Sometimes the slaughterhouses give us permission to stand on their ground, but that's very rarely. So when we do that, we really appreciate that. And we also, when we are there, we are mainly there for the animals. But we also have big signs saying, compassion over killing, go vegan, or pictures of animals, I don't want to die, please help me, or I died here. If you have a photo of last vigil, we can print new signs. And what we are doing is that we're standing next to the road, and often there is trucks, cars, people passing by constantly, and most of them never even knew that there was a slaughterhouse around. They didn't have no idea. And this keeps people thinking. And if they see us not only once, twice, third time, when they keep seeing us, of course the first time they will laugh at us, and the first time we very often see, fuck you, get up, get a job, oh bacon though, we need meat to survive, oh get alive, and all these silly comments that carnies like throwing at us. But the more we are there, the more hunks, the more thumbs up, and the more people start stopping asking us questions about it. Because we're spreading a message much further than we think. And people are curious. People very rarely know that there is a slaughterhouse, where there is slaughterhouses. We can just imagine before we went vegan, we often didn't question that. It was meat on our plate, that's it. And especially we don't question the transportation part. Okay, farm, slaughterhouse, we kind of know they exist somehow, but transportation of animals? What is that even? So we are raising a lot of awareness with just showing this. And of course we use social media a lot. Like we go live. When I went live on my first vigil in the UK, people in Norway were like, wow, this is happening right in front of you. How can I make a difference? It didn't even matter that it wasn't in our country. Even though these people have seen videos shared from organizations in Norway several times, it didn't matter that much because I saw it. They saw it through my eyes. And it made it so much more powerful for them and much easier to then ask me, like, what can we do about this? And of course, not only social media, we reach mass media. We are working together with so many media outlets. We have, at our first vigil in Czech Republic, we managed to reach the 5 biggest newspapers and national TV. We didn't even have any trucks, but they filmed us, they talked with us, and they had interviews with us. So even if there was no trucks, we still reached thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people. It was even in the metro paper, which is for free, so everyone was reading on the metro. So we work a lot with media, and sometimes we really get good footage in there. I think most countries now in Europe who have vigils have actually been on national TV even. So we also do community building. We do a lot of community building, like what we're doing now, and we go out together. We try to heal ourselves because, of course, it is traumatic to be there. And when we see the animals, we get emotional. There's nothing to hide about that. We are looking at animals in their eyes. We connect with them, and we try to be their voice. And I guess most of you have done street outreach somehow or been a part of that. Like when we do street outreach, we often talk from information we have and from what we have seen on videos. Well, when we are there with the animals, it strengthens our outreach so much because we look them in their eyes. And we switch from talking from our brain and we start talking from our heart. And when we talk from our heart, we connect with people. People take us serious and they want to listen to us. And when we can show them this screen and also take up our phone and show them a photo we took earlier this morning, they are more likely to listen to us. Once in the UK, in South London, I was at the outreach. The same morning I went outside a slaughterhouse in London, a chicken slaughterhouse. And then I was there and a guy came up to me and said, I only eat chicken. And that was the worst day he could ever say that to me. And I burst down in tears. In my head, like, I would think that I would be angry because I was very new in outreach and I was very feisty, very aggressive in my outreach in the beginning. But I burst down in tears. And I started crying in the middle of the high street and I took out my phone and I filmed the chicken who died right in front of my eyes earlier that morning. And he was in shock. He started crying himself. And we didn't talk. We didn't need to say anything. But he was like, I'm never going to eat chicken again. So didn't even need to do any outreach because it was so powerful, the emotions that we could share in that moment. Of course, if we ever ate chicken again, I don't know. But that's with everything we do. How can we measure it? So for me, when I went to a vigil, like when I went to the first vigil, it was very, very tough. I didn't feel anything. I was there, I hid behind the camera, I was filming everything, and I didn't want to be there. And I was angry, I was furious. And then I came home, And it was this emptiness over me for a few days. Like, it was like I wasn't even there. But then I went to my next one, and it was again this emptiness. A little bit different, I was a little bit more connected, I could see the animals a bit more. But at my third vigil, I stood like this and cried and cried and cried and cried. Tears was just running down my eyes the whole time. My face was filled with tears. And we saw all types of animals except birds. It was goats, sheep, pigs, calves, babies, a few weeks old babies. It was really tough. But that was the day that everything happened for me. I had been an activist for 3 weeks, and it was like something hit me. You know, when you see these athletes, you see these ballet dancers who kill themselves almost to get on the top and to be professionals. You see these sports athletes who are just driving through and pushing through burnouts and just never give up. And I always question, how can you get such a passion? How can you feel so strong for something? That moment when I was at this vigil, it hit me. It was this fire that just started to burn. I promised these animals that I'm going to be there for them for the rest of my life, or until we reach animal liberation, which I think is before my life will end. But the passion that started burning is the reason why I'm here today. That's the reason why I keep pushing through and I keep going no matter what, because I know, I have seen with my own eyes their suffering and their pain. And when you see that, you cannot reverse it. And that's why I now talk about the same movement, because I do think that we all can find this passion inside of us, and we can find this fire. It's just a matter of time and how we do it. And the difference here with athletes and animal rights is that we are not doing this for ourselves. So somehow, some people will say it might be more difficult to keep fighting. But I believe it's the opposite. I believe that when we can fight for someone else, and when we can really, really find that passion and find that power, I believe that we will fight more and we will fight harder. That's why we are starting to reach animal liberation, believe it or not. But yeah, the emotions that we get during these vigils can be traumatizing, or they will be traumatizing. That's why it's so important that we focus on community building, that we do this together. Because when we are there, we cry. Like, my friends and family never saw me cry my whole life, or at least after I got a teenager. And at my third vigil, I cried in the arms of a guy I never met. And it wasn't just a tear, it was really crying. And at vigils, we encourage this. I don't think I've ever been to a vigil where no one has been crying, unless there has been no truck. And it's so beautiful, because when we cry together, and when we are emotional, we connect on a different level. Like, when we go out for food, we enjoy and we talk about the pleasure of being vegan. Of course, we talk shit about carnies as a part of it. But when we are emotional, we talk about different stuff. We talk about new ideas. How can we change this faster? How can we make a difference? We find, like at vigils, we come up with ideas. We find people who live in the same location as we do. We start new cubes. We start doing disruptions. We are more motivated to go out in the street and do speak outs. We are more motivated to do things. And we start fighting together, and we create solid friendships and relationships while being there. And this is the only way we can really connect with the animals, like in this suffering way. Of course, we can go to sanctuaries. Do you have any sanctuaries around?
Yeah, we have a few people who have rescued a lot of animals, but not an official sanctuary.
Right.
We have rescued animals.
Yeah, I rescued animals. No. So, and of course, we can go to sanctuaries, but that's not the same. Because at the sanctuaries, you see the positivity. You see the happy animals, you see the healthy animals, or the recovering ones. While when you are at the vigil, you see the pain. You see the fear, and you see the frustration and confusion. And that's what we often get most stuck with, the confusion. They don't understand. And when we connect with that, it gets even more important for us. But like 3 years ago, I never saw a pig. Yeah, maybe in a petting zoo or maybe like somehow here and there. But I didn't understand that they were like dogs. I had no idea that you could notice the emotions of pigs in the same way as dogs. Now when I see a truck with pig, I know exactly who wants to come up to me and cuddle, and I know exactly who are so terrified that they don't want to have any contact with humans. And when you learn more about their personalities, the more you see cows, sheep, chickens, all these animals in trucks, the stronger advocate you become, because the more you know about their personalities, and the more people believe in you when you talk. So this is also very beneficial for us. So we also inspire activism, inspire our own activism, because often we do this outreach and we do a lot of things, and often it becomes very ego-based. Often we become good in outreach, we become better in outreach, we want to show people that I can do outreach, I'm very good at this. I used to be that, I used to be really, really good in outreach. I hope I still am, but yeah. When I go to rituals and look them in the eyes, I remember that it's never about me. It's never about my ego. Yeah, sometimes people say some bad stuff about me, or something like, because of course more...
Excuse me, can we just laugh about what you just said? I think it's the best word I've ever heard, really. I'm gonna cry.
Thank you. So, and when we realize that it's not about us, we fight better. And every time we go there and look them in the eyes, it's a reminder. So it's inspiring us to go out there and not talk for ourselves, but to talk for them. So we also lead by an example. Let's say we go there in the morning in a cold winter night or in a really, really warm summer day. People see what we're doing. Our friends and family, they know that we don't like to wake up early in the morning when we can sleep longer before going to work. Most of us don't like to be cold. Most of us don't like to be there in the heat, almost collapsing from the heat wave. And when we can show that we do this, not only once, but we keep on doing this, we show them that we are consistent and that we take this serious. And they start to take us more serious as well. So it's a lot of things that we can use this ground for, like outside the slaughterhouse. We do, for example, workshops. Back to community building again. It's so important that we use different skills. Like, we are around 30 people in this room right now, and I'm sure that there's 30 different skills, maybe not different ones, but at least, let's say, 15 different skills. And I'm sure that we can find a way to use that as a benefit for the animals, somehow. So we have someone who's good with camera. We do a workshop about how to take good pictures, how to capture emotions of animals. How can we make the best footage ever? Then we do that during the ritual. We split up in groups. We have half the group standing with the signs waiting for the trucks, and half the group go on the other side of the road to do a workshop and talk about these things. Because when we stand there for 3 hours, it's quite tough to keep looking at the animals and keep just waiting. So we use this time. We use this as a very precious time to connect with each other. Like while on a Cube of Truth, we don't encourage talking with each other. We don't encourage talking with other activists. We're going to take this serious. We're going to talk with bypasses, and we're going to stand in the queue. So here we have more a platform where we can really connect and be with each other. And we also do things like sharing circles, where we go in groups with 4 and 4 or 5 and 5, where we share stuff. And the first time we often share just our story. How did we become vegan? How did we get into activism? The second round, or second time, we can share more like, what are our struggles? What do we need to be more active? And maybe what we often see is that a lot of people come from the same background. Like when we split up this group, it's like the universe are working together with us, and often we have 4 people, all of them came out of deep anxiety or deep depression, and then they find animal rights and it helped them recover. And then sometimes we see someone who is working on a web page, but they don't know what to do. And then you have a graphic designer on what to do. And we keep making the team stronger, and it's very important that we do that. And another thing that's, I think, even more important is that we can talk about infighting. Because I'm not sure how much infighting you have here, but in general, the bigger we grow, the more infighting we will get. Well, if we do this sharing, we can talk about why we are judging each other. We can talk about our problems with each other. Because often, the underlying reason is not really true. It's not really existing. It's something we create in our own mind. And when we can talk about these things, we open up and we learn so much about the others. So if we have some people who are against each other, we should put them in the same circle, and they should share what is their problem. Because often we don't ask questions about why people are doing things the way they are doing it, but often they have a better idea or a reason for it. Or often they're just trying their best. Most of the time everyone is trying their best and doing what they think is right. Well, sometimes it might not be what is the best, and then we can help each other find the best thing. Like, for example, in the UK, it was this video that went viral from a disruption where they went into a restaurant, and carnies stood up and were screaming, "We want more meat," and they were starting to fight them back. Vegans from all around the world, or at least Europe, started to talk shit about direct action everywhere and say that this is not effective, look what you're doing, you're creating all these bad reactions. But instead of asking questions why they were doing it, people just came out and said they are doing it wrong, having no idea that these people were actually working on triggering carnies to get their behavior, to make a video of carnies' behavior towards vegans. So it's so much more often behind what is happening than we think. So it's important that we ask questions and call each other in. And that's very easy to do if we go to slaughterhouses together and talk more about things there. And now one thing that might not seem so nice, like we are love-based. What does that really mean? Love-based. Of course we are love-based towards animals. Like, I'm talking about sharing emotions. Of course, if we need to cry, we cry. If we need to show anger, we are okay to go on the other side of the road and scream a bit. No one will judge people for that. Just don't do it in front of the animals, because of course we don't want the animals to be more stressed. And of course also when we see the animals, we just, not everyone jumping in there with the camera. We try to have someone filming and someone really connecting with the animals. It's easy to hide behind the camera, but it's very, very important to actually connect. But there is a lot of people around us. Let's say slaughterhouse workers, truck drivers, farmers. These people that many of us would like to give a punch in their face and say, get out of here. Or put in the animal's position. Well, that's not what we do. With love-based, we also are love-based towards them. And that means that we treat them with all the respect that we can. We have conversations with them, and even if they call us names, no matter how bad they are treating us, we are still trying to have a positive interaction with them. Because after all, most of these people are also a victim of a messed up society. We live in a society where it's consumers who are the reason for the meat industry. And often the slaughterhouse workers just do their job because they think they have to. And they also just want food for their kids and family. So they are put in these positions. Often they cannot find other jobs. Often it's very young people working there. Often it's immigrants, and often it's people who really don't want to do these jobs. I've talked with slaughterhouse workers from all around Europe now, and very rarely you meet those who say, I love my job. You do that as well, but most of the time they don't. And often they're even vegetarians. Not of ethical reasons, but because they know they don't want to eat the fear, they don't want to eat the torture and pain that they see. And very often they are immigrants. In Romania, we went to one of the biggest slaughterhouses, and right next to the slaughterhouse, it was like a huge building, and this was far, far out. There was nothing around, not even a supermarket. not even a bus, nothing. And it was just a slaughterhouse and a huge building. In this building we found out that lived 50 people from Sri Lanka. All of them probably coming to Europe to try to find a better life. Here were stuck at the slaughterhouse, had to work there probably for the rest of their lives. And of course when we come there and start screaming and yelling at them, we're not making their life easier. While if we would on the other hand come there and say, hey, we open a vegan restaurant, anyone interested in a new job in the city? We would make life easier for them, and we would actually help them transition into veganism. And that's our goal, right? We want all of them to go vegan. We don't want them to keep working there. So the better conversations we can have with them, the more likely they are to understand veganism and actually start their transitioning, which have happened quite a lot of times. In the UK, once a truck driver actually decided to join a veg show. And he just wanted to join to see how it was from the vegan's perspective. He quitted his job. I don't know if he went vegan, and I don't know the follow-up of this, but he actually quit his job. And he's not the only truck driver. There has been several truck drivers who have quitted their job. Often because they come to a slaughterhouse, no, they go to a farm to pick up the animals, but they never really see the animals. They are there, they open the truck, the farmers load them, and then they drive to the slaughterhouse, and then they offload them. So they just drive. And once I questioned a truck driver, like, yeah, how they felt about this, and they said, yeah, I love animals. Yeah, yeah. And then I questioned him if he could come out and see them and actually tell them that he loved them and driving them to the gas chambers. He didn't want to come out and see them, but I could see that his whole face changed, and he was very touched by the whole thing. So when we have good conversations with them, things are happening with them. And it's the same with most of us. Like, we weren't vegan, most of us weren't born vegan. And it wasn't because we hated animals, it was just because it was like this. Society created this nightmare. So if we're gonna change it, we need to change everyone. Even though I have had situations where I had screamed to slaughterhouse workers in the beginning in the UK, I remember the police threw us in front of the trucks and back and forth here and there. I remember one point, really strong memory, was when me, Ed, and a few others, Peter, Kylie and Luna, we were standing like this in front of the truck with our back towards the truck. And a truck came and pushed us. And it was really like, that moment you really feel the strength between the activists, but you also feel the nightmare we are really in, because the truck is pulling you. And then the police came and they're throwing us everywhere. And at that point we were screaming to the slaughterhouse workers, and they were fighting us, they were trying to open the gate fast and driving straight through us. And this was the first vigil we did there. After 10 vigils, the slaughterhouse workers came out with vegan food to the vegans. So that's the change that we can create. I don't know how it's now, but they're still doing vigils there at least monthly. And when we are keeping on, like, we can still start with screaming, but it will make it more difficult to get through to them. So what we do when we start with this, we go to the slaughterhouses and we talk to them. Often before we start doing a vigil, we go there and we ask, can we have a meeting? Send them a mail, give them a call, ask if we can come by. If they don't reply to us, which they often don't, we go there and we ring the doorbell or knock on the door for the office and try to find the manager or team leader or something like that, and we talk to them. And when we talk to them, we tell them that we are not here to cause any problems for you guys. We're not here to make any drama, we're not here to hate on the workers, we don't have anything against you or the company, we are here for the animals. And that's the thing, we don't go against any companies. We are abolitionists, we want all of it to stop, we don't want them to move to another company, we want them to stop. So for now, of course we're not going to go in there and tell them, we want you to stop the slaughter.
That was my question. We're abolitionists, they will want to stop?
No, we just tell them that we want to see the animals. We are animal lovers and stupid animal lovers who just want to cuddle animals. And often that is alright for them. Until they see our videos go viral. Then they get angry. And then they don't want to work together with us, and then we start over again. Then we do the same again, and then we start to say, okay, please blur the ear tags, please blur the drivers and the license plates, and then we start meeting them halfway. Like if we now would go to a slaughterhouse and blur everything right away, and they will say, no, we don't like you guys, we don't have anything to win.
Yeah.
Because if we can say, we will start blurring it, then we can meet them halfway. Because now we kind of start without anything. Like they don't have anything to lose with saying, okay, we call the police and we get you removed. While
yes, but when you're alive, sorry for interruption, but when you're alive, you can't blur the
no, yeah, that's the thing. When you're
just be a little bit, you know, take care of not taking the face of the driver or the license.
So yeah, that's also a practice. Like of course when you're alive, it's just about not getting the driver and the license plates. And that's often not that difficult because when you're up in the truck, there is just animals. And then when you turn, you can just turn it right to the vegans. So it's a practice as well. And of course, most of the videos they won't see, but they often follow our save pages. We have often they're going to our events even. I don't really get why. Probably because they're driving animals there. But yeah, it looks like there are more people going. So from the outside it looked good. So yeah, it's very important that we stay respectful towards them. And if we are not there, we are not able to do that, then it is suggested that we just stay away from them. If they talk to us, just ignore them. Because when we start screaming and making a bad scene, it makes it more difficult for us to have a good relationship with the enemy. So it does sound absurd, right? Like we're gonna have a good relationship with those who kill our friends, the ones we love the most. But to create a vegan world, we kind of need to try this, at least during the save movement. We can do a lot of other radical actions, just not with the save movement and outside slaughterhouses. Then we should go inside. And there is a lot of things happening with this, and I'm actually planning some bigger projects when it comes to more radical activism as well, but I'm going to leave this for another time. I want to do a more radical workshop as well while I'm here. So
step by step.
Yeah.
One thing at a time.
Yeah, one thing at a time. And it's important that we can show people as well that we are lobbyists. Because a lot of people, I don't know if you have the label here, vegan terrorists. I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah, we don't have something like this yet.
Yeah. So, yeah.
No, we have some scenes that a few vegans broke butcher shops and.
You mean that?
Yes, we have.
So, and this is what we see more and more now. People are talking about vegans as terrorists, which is of course quite crazy because we're trying to save lives. But when we're doing love-based activism, we show people that we are not criminal. We're just regular human beings who want this to stop. And often we don't look that bad, you know, we don't look like criminals. So yeah, it's important that we can show individuals who are curious about veganism that we can also be nice. And of course they can also put the cube, oh you look so black and have this mask and you look scary. And I think that's really important that we can have this image as well, even though I don't think it looks scary at all. But it's important that we can have all the different aspects of it. So when they see that we are dressed up in normal clothes and outside a slaughterhouse, it's easier for bypassers to connect with us as well. And then we also have rescues. Like we're called the save movement, but do we really save animals? Of course, on the bigger picture, in the bigger scale, yes, we do. We have 616 slaughterhouses around and that have vegans outside. And I have met so many people who went vegan because of the footage they have seen, and also became activists because it was a local visual there. While rescuing animals directly is not always very easy. But we have had some situations where we have managed to rescue the animals. Once in Los Angeles, they were at the ritual and a truck pulled off and a cow gave birth in the truck. So the vegans saw this baby, newborn baby, and the truck drove into the slaughterhouse, but they were really trying to stop this. So what they did was that they posted on Facebook, asked people to call in and do everything they can to get this calf out. And in the end, the slaughterhouse approved and they came out with the calf. Of course, the vegans didn't give up. and they kept on fighting. And eventually they came out with the mom as well. So they actually managed to get both of them, and they are now living in a sanctuary in LA. And they can live there together for the rest of their life.
Sanctuaries, we don't have. So
no, they don't have sanctuaries, and that is of course a problem. But on the other hand, if we would all of a sudden stand here with a cow, I'm sure that the team all over would start really working hard to find a place for these animals. And we would. Yeah.
We
So.
have saved the cow.
Oh yeah. Ah, nice.
One cow.
Not goats and sheep. We have farmers.
Nice. So yeah, and of course sometimes it is very difficult to do rescues, but when it comes to birds, it is easier.
Yeah.
So we have one slaughterhouse in Barcelona where they have chickens, and at the first vigil there, the vegans went up and really tried to get a bird. Like, can we get a sick or injured bird? Can we please? And 3 girls went up and were really begging for one chicken. And after 2 hours, they were so tired of talking with vegans, and the vegans said, like, we promise that we will leave after we get one bird. And then they got one bird. And then the 3 girls came back to the team, and then they were looking at the bird and like, yeah, but the bird can't be alone. It needs a friend. So they went back. They went back to the slaughterhouse and like, yeah, but please, the bird really needs a friend. Come on. And actually, they managed to get 2 birds, and then they left. And now, pretty much on every ritual, they get 2 birds. So this can happen, and of course, it is easier with birds. I'm sure finding home for birds is not that difficult. And I think, especially here, I think people have gardens and have the possibility to have birds a little bit outside Athens. I'm sure we can find someone if you really want to. And they don't take much space. You can even have them inside. It's like cats. So do you have any questions so far? No, all right.
So in the first thing that we're gonna do, there is a possibility not to stop the truck. Just be there with the signs and everything like this. It's not important to stop the truck.
We do stop the trucks. It's a bit
we're gonna stop the truck.
Yeah, it depends. Like we always see it a little bit how it is. Like very often when I do the briefing, we're really like, yeah, but we're not gonna stop the truck. And then the truck come, and then we're 2 people. They're like, okay, let's just stop the truck. So it is. We're just humans, you know, and instinctively
so we're gonna stop it like with force, or
yeah. Normally it depends. Like normally the absolute first truck we see, we don't stop, just to get an overview as well how it is. And we always try to stop it with a peace sign a little bit in front of the truck, but so the truck can pass us. And we also have signs saying, please stop for 2 minutes. And we also, like, we try to stop it. But physically stopping it with, like, chains, we try not to do the first time. While if they don't seem to have any interest in stopping, we will try to stop them a little bit. But it depends on the slaughterhouse, the safety. Of course, if it's a highway and it is one turn, of course, we're not gonna do that, because then, it's dangerous for everyone involved. So we need to also look at the danger. Sometimes we have a long road up to the slaughterhouse. Hey. And then, of course, it's easier to do these things. So we always need to see, and it depends on the slaughterhouse. And often they have a gate, an electronic gate often, which take at least 30 seconds to open. So then we do have a few seconds with the animals. And then we kind of accept that and try to talk with the driver and get him to stand a little bit. So, yeah, we always have to see. So we need
just some seconds with the animals.
Yeah, and we always ask for 2 minutes, and if they don't want to give us 2 minutes, that's our goal, to have 2 minutes with them. While in the Netherlands, they have managed to do something amazing. They have 2 slaughterhouses where they are allowed on the property, and we get about 20 minutes with each truck. While that, on the other hand, is kind of too much sometimes, because you don't want to go there every week. That's too much for us to handle in general, like seeing these animals. And we have seen so many bad conditions there. We have seen a lot of things. So it's not the place you want to be more often. But on the other hand, they are working together with us, but we are losing a bit, because they say we can only be there every second month. So it's kind of how we meet, but then they have 2 slaughterhouses that do that, so now they have one each month, and they are now building all the other slaughterhouses around, so they can keep pushing it. And then when all the slaughterhouses in the Netherlands are filled, we'll go back and then deal with that again and try to get it more often. But hopefully by then we'll reach animal liberation.
So the first thing that we do is communicate with the slaughterhouse, send them an email or go just ring the bell.
Also, they know it from before.
Yeah, so they know that they will be
okay,
there.
we want to do this or that.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's possible to know when a truck is coming, if they tell us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just stand outside the slaughterhouse waiting for the truck and outreaching with people maybe.
Yeah.
And making workshop between us.
Yes,
right?
yes.
This is the beginning.
This is the beginning, yeah. And I would like to organize the first virtual in March. I would like to see one. And of course, like we will get everything gathered, like signs and everything. So I was wondering if anyone would be up for going there to slaughterhouses next week, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or something like that.
This week?
Yeah, this week or
tomorrow.
Yeah, from tomorrow, yeah, to just go and talk with them and have a view.
It has to be in the morning or?
No, it has to like just before, like I guess 3 or 4 before the manager leave, or management are probably there between 9 and 1, 2.
I think that they stay there for more than 3 o'clock. So
yeah, right, yeah.
So I think we managed to go to Spobros. And we have a cell phone of the manager also.
Okay, yeah, so then we can call and ask when he will be there, maybe, and then we can arrange a meeting maybe with him. Yeah. Let's talk about this afterwards, and maybe we can arrange that. So any other questions about Animal Save?
Has it ever happened to, between these 20 seconds, to become aggressive, the truck driver, and come down from the truck while he's waiting for the door to open and make a scene because you are approaching the truck, or you're taking pictures of his truck, or giving water to the animals or something?
I will say, like, very rarely that I have met like a proper angry driver. Sometimes they are like, yeah, fuck off, leave my property alone, and these things. But in general, they most of the time just don't understand what we're doing. So either they just drive on and don't stop, but if they stop, we always have one person talking with the driver, and that person try to explain what we're doing and try to spend as long time as possible doing so. So we try to talk about the save movement, that we are in so many slaughterhouses, and we try to make the time goes as long as absolutely possible. But we often also see that they are in a hurry. Often they drive on a schedule and they actually don't have time to stop. So it's also nice if you can ask them, like, do you have a minute? I just want to talk to you about a few things, and we want to see the animals, and often they don't mind. But I have experienced one time where there was a really, really aggressive slaughterhouse worker, and that was in Romania, in Timisoara. It was, we went to outside Smithfield slaughterhouse. It was the biggest one there. And we were just 3 people, and 2 girls and 1 guy. And the guy, this was his first activism event ever. and this guy came out and he started throwing grass at us. And I was like, okay, you're throwing grass at vegans. It was a bit sarcastic, but yeah, it was. And then I was filming everything, and for me it was, okay, we need this because it's Smithfield company, which is one of the biggest slaughterhouse companies in the world, so it's good footage. But of course it was a new activist there, so it kind of, like, in general, I wouldn't, like, if we would be the whole team here at that ritual, I would let this guy be as aggressive as he wanted, because it's very good footage that you can use against them later on. Not necessarily to go viral, but to go to the slaughterhouse and say, see, this is what your workers are doing. We demand you to stop the trucks for us. If not, this will go viral. So then we can use that against them. While, because this new activists were there, we were trying to take it more careful. And then he went away and we went off their property. But then he came running back with branches and started hitting on us. It's still good footage, but he didn't really, no injuries, and he was just mental. probably been working there for his whole life,
Yeah.
so I understand him and I do feel more sorry for him. But in general, I've been to now, I think, around 70 slaughterhouses, or done at least 70 rituals, and that's the worst thing I've experienced, and it was more mental, so yeah. Most of the time it is quite safe, and I think I think if we would be a group of 20 people, he wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
It was just because we were three people, and yeah, then it makes it more difficult. So, any other questions about animal save?
Have there ever been any arrests?
And I have never experienced any arrest. Like, yeah, Anita got arrested in 2015, but in general, we don't really get arrests because we are following the law and we're not breaking any laws. So far there is not a lot of arrests going on. But of course, if we are violent, if we do block the truck, we are at risk of getting arrested. But it's not a very common thing. But it has happened for sure. I just don't know have any histories right now about it.
The trucks are blocked to get the footage
Yeah.
and give water to the animals or outreach the driver.
Yes, that's the main thing. So in general, we often don't need to block the trucks. So it's always somehow we can get some footage because they turn, they wait for the gate. Like there is another truck who just came, so they need to wait a few seconds. So yeah, we very rarely get arrested, and often we are enough people. So yeah, I haven't experienced it yet. But
It's illegal to give water to the illegal because of health protocols, etc. Not illegal to give water to a living being, but I think it's illegal because it's a property.
yeah, so that's the thing. Sometimes they don't want us to give water, and sometimes they don't care. So
Okay, you ask them.
yeah, like if we have a good relationship with them, we do. And of course, like now, water is not the most needed thing for them. It's more in the summer months when it's really hot. And then if we cannot give them water, we already have something against them because we see the animals, how thirsty they are. So then we can show them like, okay, but are you all right with this? And then we can work towards something from there. But of course, it is a risk to just give them water without any permission. It can be a risk for getting problems. And yeah, as happened with Anita, she could face up to 12 years in prison. Of course, this was in the US, and I do doubt that there is so strict here that you get 12 years like in the US.
It was a big company that had sued her, so
Yeah.
here it's gonna be just small farmers bringing animals. It's
Yeah.
not gonna be so big.
No, yeah. And also in general in Europe, we don't have these ridiculous sentences like you get 10 times life sentence in the US. This doesn't make any sense. And like now they are facing 60 years in prison for rescuing sick birds from farms. So we luckily don't have the same style as US when it comes to most things. And in general, farmers are already quite overlooked by the law, and there is very few laws that protect both the animals and the farmers. So if we have good lawyers on the team, there's loopholes. There's loopholes everywhere that we can be on top of before they change the laws, so we can make them change the laws in our benefit. If we have a lawyer on the team or someone who are interested in these things, it's very good to start working on this, because there is no laws about us not giving water to the trucks. Like, it's no strict written law. Of course, there's something they can find on it. But if we have a lawyer who is on top of that, we can play them back, and it's a lot of room for playing around here.
Can I make another question?
Yeah.
And what happens if the manager of the slaughterhouse deny to go there? And, we just go? Or?
Yeah, then we go anyway.
I wouldn't expect anything more, but okay,
Yeah.
I have to ask about it.
Yeah. So yeah, we will be there, and yeah, there is.
Whether he likes it or not.
Yeah, we're not there for them. Like, after all, like either if they like it or not, it's a benefit if we can have a good relationship.
Yeah.
And most of the time, of course, they're not like, oh yes, we want vegans on our property. But they normally are all right because they don't want to look bad. They don't want to look bad on the outside say, like, they don't have anything to hide often. I don't know how it is here with animal welfare, if it is a lot talked about in general, if anyone cares about it. But all right, no. But I know in Norway, for example, I started the same movement there in September 2017. It was the first group I ever started, was in Oslo. And we have now, I think, 7 vigils in Norway, and none of them have really mapped a truck yet. So it is possible that this also happens. But when I was there now in December, I called one manager who refused to talk with us for a long time, and I went to the office, and yeah, he just didn't want to talk with the vegans for a very long time. And then I visited, and I really tried to talk with him, and then he was on the phone with me in the end. And he said, I asked if it was possible to arrange a meeting, and he's like, no, we know what you're doing, it's no point. And then I said, yeah, okay, but we want to see the animals, and what's the problem with that? He's like, yeah, it's for the safety of the animals and all these things.
What?
But then I said, but the consumers have the right to know. The consumers have the right to see this step of production as well. So, do you have anything to hide, since you don't want to talk with us and don't want us to look at the animals? And at this point, before this, he was not interested in any meeting at all. And then he was silent for like half a minute on the phone. And then he said, maybe we can arrange a meeting next time. Send us a mail and we will try to do this. After half an hour, they came and talked to us. So we had a meeting already that day. So we are a little bit closer to manage to stop a truck. But playing on different things can help. And they don't care about us, but often they do care about the consumer, especially if it is a big company that have a little bit of the name.
We don't have big companies. We have many slaughterhouses, small slaughterhouses.
But I still have seen, I have looked at some web pages from slaughterhouses in Greece, and most of them that have English web pages say that they are working under European welfare standards, and they have like animal welfare as a part of their thing. So if we can question that and say, yeah, but are you really following the law? Can we see this? Then they are also more afraid of not stopping. So there is always somehow that we can play around and use law to our benefit.
Is slaughterhouse near Athens or?
No, I don't. I think this was up north.
Yeah.
Αγρίνιο,
μεγάλο, πώς λέγεται.
Αγρίνιο, ρε παιδιά.
Αγρίνιο μεγάλο που έχει ένα όνομα από κάπως περίεργο.
Αστακός.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you ask permission to go into the premises and have footage from the all the stages of production?
Not really. That sometimes we do. Like sometimes we get the opportunity to come inside. Sometimes they actually want to show us, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to see them on the outside.
So mainly it's the condition that the animals are into the trucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to outreach the driver or...
Yeah, and everything around, like every people passing by, and to connect with the animals. Like this is still the most important thing, to actually be there and give them compassion. Like when we go up to these pigs, they start licking our fingers. They are like dogs. They are so curious, and especially in the Netherlands where we have 20 minutes, they come and they are really terrified. You can see their whole body like shaking sometimes. And then you spend time with them, and sometimes they even fall asleep with you. And they really connect with them and can give them some love and compassion before they have to leave this planet. And often that's the only, or almost every time, that's the only compassion they ever saw or will see. So, and we can imagine if it would be us, let's say 70 years ago during the Holocaust, which was inspired by animal agriculture. And if we were in these trucks on our way to the gas chamber, and we had no idea where we were going, we had no idea about anything. And then some people came, we didn't understand their language or anything, but they gave us a hand to hold it. They gave us a hand and some calm words. We didn't understand, but we do understand compassion when we see it. And so do the animals, and I think they understand it way better than we do. And if you would feel comfortable with having at least someone giving you a hand, then we should be there, giving them a hand. And I personally would definitely at least like to feel that hope that someone out there cares and someone out there are trying. And it's so powerful when we can promise these animals that we're going to fight for them. It's so powerful when I can say to a pig that I know I can't help you, but I'm going to do everything I can to help your family and your brothers and sisters. And I do think that it is time that we start looking at them as our brothers and sisters. Because if that would be our brothers and sisters in those trucks, we would be there for them till the very end, and we would do everything we could for them to get them out. So why shouldn't we do that for these animals? Because it is quite bad out there. 3,000, 30,000, 30,000, 30,000, 30,000, 30,000, 30,000. That's how many animals that get brutally slaughtered and murdered every single second. And we in this room are some of their only hopes. So it is our duty to be there for them and to act in every way that we can. So yeah, we also have some other groups, because in every way that we can, they're trying to change this and raise awareness. So we have something called Climate Save Movement. And this is something new that's just started half a year ago. Or we have started a little bit before, but it started to explode half a year ago. Now we have over 100 groups with Climate Save around the world. And what we are doing is that we are fighting the climate and the relation between animal agriculture and the climate, which is quite important. So what we're doing with Climate Save is that we are reaching out to environmentalists. Like, let's say we can do a beach cleanup or just a street cleanup, forest cleanup. We can invite environmentalists on board, and we don't need to mention veganism until we're done. After the cleanup, we go and scream conspiracy, and then we have a debate afterwards. And then we can reach a whole new audience who's already ready to go vegan. So then we can create a much stronger activist team. And if they get introduced to Climate Save, then they're more likely to join us for the Animal Save as well. And we're now talking about trying something new, like we do Cube of Truth with Anonymous for the Voiceless, but we want to do Climate Save cubes, where we wear maybe gas masks and show footage from, or hold signs and show footage from the environment and the impact we have on the environment. Because people, like, okay, personally, I am an animal rights activist.
But what would be the point, like, to make them vegan when they see those images?
Of
or
course.
it's just cut the plastic bags?
No, of course we want them to be vegan, and of course think more about straws and plastic and all these things. And like for me, I'm an animal rights activist, so for a long time I was like, I don't really know if I want to go into climate, because I want to purely fight for the animals. But it's their habitats. We don't have any wildlife left on this planet. We're destroying the fishes, we're destroying the oceans, we're destroying everything we have. For what? For raising food for cattle and cattle for food. So it's all so connected. And when we're talking about environment, so many more people are inspired to join. I don't know if you've heard about Greta, the girl from Sweden who is now rocking this world. She's also vegan, and she is having people marching all around the world, school strikes. And school strikes are becoming every Friday now. And they're striking for the environment. I'm sure that 99% of the people striking are not even vegan. So imagine if when there is a strike, we could go there and have a cube of Climate Save and show them that this is actually what you can do for the environment instead of just marching. Because marching, will that really help the environment? I don't know. I don't really think so. While if all these people would go vegan, it will have a massive, massive impact. And then imagine if they would be vegan activists. How much bigger impact that will have. So that's our duty, to make them become active and do more. So with Climate Save, we go outside, we do talk about environment, we do street outreach, go to the street, have flyers, talk to people, and just educate them about what's happening. Because most people really don't know, or don't want to know, that going vegan is the biggest impact they can have. And how many people aren't now cutting down on plastic straws while still eating a beef every day, or like eating animal products daily? Which I do think that in general you can use lots of plastic straws if you just go vegan. I don't think anyone should use lots of plastic straw, but I think you get what my point is. So if we can manage to reach these people, we are talking about millions of people who don't even consider going vegan. So it's very important that they actually can get out and educate them. And it's much, much easier Like I had conversations earlier today about the dangers of going outside slaughterhouses. They can be aggressive, and yeah, of course the trucks, we need to stop them, and it's also emotional for us. So of course it's important to do this, and I think that's, for me, this is my heart activism. This is what I will always want to do, because you have all-in-ones, connecting with animals, connecting with each other, reaching out to the public, and being there, you know. While climate saving movement you can do everywhere. You don't need to have a slaughterhouse for it. You can do it in the middle of a capital. You can do it outside a school. You can do it everywhere, and you don't need to deal with too much police or too much people going against you, because most people care about the environment. So most people won't scream bacon though when you're standing there fighting for the homes of our all. So it's very important that we start doing this. We also have other groups such as Fish Save, where we go to the ports or harbors or beaches like fish markets, where they serve more fish, because fish are kind of forgotten even in our movement. We don't talk too much about fish, and this can also be connected with climate save. So you can do Fish Save and Climate Save together, where you put an extra attention on the fishes and how people can take more responsibility there. Because when a person sees a pig, they understand that this is an animal that can suffer and feel pain. But people don't connect with fishes in the same way. Maybe dolphins, but they still don't realize that we kill all the dolphins with fishing nets and all these things.
And here it's Greece, so they live by fish for all their lives.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'm from Norway, which is also a fish country, so now we are kind of moving very much towards Fish Save. We want to have Fish Save all around the coastline and everywhere in Norway, because it's so massive fish industry there, and I guess it is here as well, so it would be very nice to start up more related to the fish, because if people stop eating fish, they will of course realize what's happening to other animals. And it's not like we are saying stop eat fish and continue eating other animals. It's just putting a little bit extra tension on the fish. We also have this with dairy. We have some people doing Ditch Dairy, Save Lives, which is a dairy save, where they go to cheese markets or where they go to big companies who sell dairy. And yeah, we try to have all type of save. We also have Health Save, where we try to get the dietitians and doctors and people who know more about health to go out on the street and talk about these things. Health Save, we try to go more into schools, which we also do with Climate Save, because it's very difficult from an animal rights perspective to have a talk at a school. Yeah. You can't just go in there and say, animals are tortured, because most of the schools work together with these industries and get sponsored by the milk industry, for example.
It's kind of taboo to speak with young children about this massacre of animals.
Yeah. Well, if we can do it from a climate perspective, and if we're going to have a talk about climate, schools are more interested in actually having us there. So then we can just talk about the reality, and there is nothing to hide when it comes to animal agriculture all of a sudden. And we also
have to stop eating meat.
Yeah. So we can really reach a lot with hiding behind the climate, even though we're still speaking about veganism. So we also have Fur Save and Leather Save. We have vivisection. We don't have egg yet, so if anyone have any special heart for the egg industry, like what we're trying to do is that we're trying to create a movement where everyone can find their biggest passion within animal rights and still fight for it. Like now athletes are starting to do Health Save, and environmentalists are doing climate saves, and people who really want to connect with animals do animal saves. So we try to support everyone and everyone's ID, because we believe that everything can be related to animal rights and veganism. So instead of being very focused on one thing, we spread our message and we spread our team further, then we can reach way more people. And that's what we really see now with Climate Save. So many non-vegans are joining, which is great, because then we can spend that time on educating them and asking them, what are you doing for the environment? And then they come back to cutting down their plastic usage. Well, the single biggest impact we can have is still going vegan. So there is a lot of different save groups, and it's just about finding your own passion in it. Yeah. Do anyone have any questions?
Αν δεν μπορείτε να τις κάνετε στα αγγλικά, κάντε την ερώτηση στα ελληνικά να μεταφράσουμε. If they can make a question in English, we can translate.
Yeah, of course.
If they can make a question in English, they probably haven't understand anything that was said.
Maybe someone who doesn't speak English, then we can understand.